The Salish Sea is one of the most beautiful places on Earth, a network of waterways stretching across the misty Pacific Northwest, from British Columbia's island-dotted coastline to Washington State's rugged inlets. On any given day, its shorelines are postcard perfect, driftwood scattered across quiet beaches, eagles circling above tide pools, kayakers slicing through silver water. But behind the scenic calm lies a mystery that has haunted scientists, locals, and police for years. Severed human feet clad in sneakers repeatedly washing ashore.
Well, the next time you head to the beach, watch your step. An oceanographer who tracks floating wreckage says West Coast beachcombers may find floating athletic shoes with human bones. That's as more debris from last year's Japanese tsunami washes ashore. That oceanographer is advising anyone who sees those shoes to call 911. Meantime, just today, a strong 6.1 magnitude earthquake hit off the coast of northeastern Japan. There were no reports of a tsunami, though, or any serious injuries.
Since August 20th, 2007, at least 24 human feet have been found on these coasts. Some belong to missing persons, some were traced back to suicides or accidents, some remain unidentified, and all of them sparked one of the most bizarre maritime mysteries of the 21st century. The mystery began almost innocently. On August 20th, 2007, a girl visiting from Washington State was exploring Jedediah Island, a serene spot in British Columbia. She spotted a size 12 Adidas sneaker lying on the sand. Curious, she picked it up and opened the sock. Inside was a man's right foot. Investigators quickly determined that the shoe had been manufactured in 2003 and distributed mainly in India. DNA confirmed the remains were from a missing man who had suffered from depression. The case, though tragic, didn't raise alarms. Not yet. Bodies sometimes surface from accidents at sea. But less than a week later, it happened again. On August 26, 2007, another foot appeared, this time on Gabriola Island. Also a man's right foot, disarticulated from the rest of the body. Its shoe was a white Reebok produced in 2004. Locals began to whisper. One foot was strange, two felt like an omen. By early 2008, more feet emerged. In February, a right foot in a Nike sneaker turned up on Valdez Island. In May, a woman's foot in a New Balance shoe appeared on Kirkland Island in the Fraser Delta. By summer, a fifth foot washed ashore on West Ham Island, this time a left foot that matched the Nike from February. With each new discovery, headlines spread. Severed feet found on BC shores screamed newspapers from Vancouver to Melbourne. Talk show host David Letterman even cracked jokes about the mystery on air, asking Canadian audience members if their shoes were still on. What had started as a local curiosity was quickly spiraling into an international fascination. The sheer unlikeliness of the phenomenon made it irresistible. Experts calculated that the odds of even 2 feet washing up so close together were astronomical. By the time the third appeared, police themselves admitted they were baffled. Naturally, theories abounded. Was there a serial killer dumping bodies into the sea? Was this evidence of organized crime? Could it be plane crashes or even human trafficking gone wrong? The truth, as grim as it was, turned out to be less cinematic and more scientific. Bodies that end up in water decompose in very specific ways. According to forensic entomologists like Gail Anderson at Simon Fraser University, extremities, hands, feet, heads are often the first to detach because the joints at the ankle and wrist are relatively weak. Once detached, most body parts sink, but feet inside modern sneakers behave differently. Sneakers, especially those made after the mid-2000s, are designed with lightweight foam and air pockets that make them buoyant. Encase a foot in one, and it turns into a grisly flotation device. As the rest of the body sinks or is consumed by marine life, the sneaker-protected foot drifts to shore, intact enough to be found. That's why in almost every case, the feet discovered in the Salish Sea were wearing sneakers. It wasn't murder, it was physics. Despite the media frenzy, the phenomenon wasn't entirely new. In fact, Vancouver had a macabre history of body parts washing up. Back in 1887, a leg in a boot was found on a local beach, giving rise to the name Leg and Boot Square.
Since 2007, 21 individual human feet with their shoes still attached have washed up on the shores of British Columbia in the US. As feet continued to wash up on shore, people were speculating that a serial killer was on the loose, when in reality it comes down to science. First off, decomposition is accelerated in the water, and second, as a body sinks to the bottom of the ocean floor, this is when all sea life and scavengers come out to eat the soft tissues of the body. And as the ligaments and soft tissue around the ankle become eaten, this is when it can easily become detached. Meanwhile, the skin and tissue of the foot itself is protected by the material of the shoe. Now pair this with the modern materials that shoes are made out of, it causes the foot to float. And eventually it makes its way to the shore. After DNA testing, most of these severed feet were linked to people who were reported missing or presumed dead from accident or suicide. Although some of these feet were never sadly connected to a person.
In 1914, another leg in a high boot appeared near the mouth of the Salmon River. The difference was that back then, these were one-off oddities. In the 21st century, the clustering of discoveries made it seem like an epidemic. Between 2007 and 2019, 20 feet were found in total. 15 in British Columbia, 5 in Washington State. By 2023, the number had risen to 24, and remarkably, several turned out to be pairs. One man's right foot was found in 2008, his left turning up months later on a different island. A woman's New Balance sneakers, one discovered in 2008, the other in 2011, were traced to her suicide from the Patullo Bridge years earlier. Far from sinister killings, the feet told quieter, sadder stories of mental illness, misadventure, and accidents swallowed by the sea. Of course, not every discovery was genuine. In June 2008, a foot found on Tai Spit near Campbell River turned out to be a hoax. A skeletonized animal paw stuffed into a sock and shoe, padded with dried seaweed. Later, in 2011, pranksters left sneakers filled with raw meat on Oak Beach, mocking the real cases. These hoaxes only deepened the media circus, forcing police to waste resources and leaving grieving families outraged. For every real tragedy, there were clowns eager to exploit it for attention. One of the lingering questions is why this phenomenon is so concentrated in the Salish Sea. The answer lies in geography. The region's unique currents, fed by the Strait of Georgia, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and Puget Sound, create a natural washing machine effect. Items dropped into the water don't drift far into the Pacific. They circle within the inland sea until they reach shore. Add in countless beaches, coves, and inlets, and the odds of remains being found increase dramatically compared to open ocean coastlines. Combine that with sneaker buoyancy, and the Salish Sea becomes a perfect stage for this grim phenomenon. There's no denying the morbid allure of the mystery. International outlets like The Guardian, The Herald Sun, and Cape Times covered it obsessively. Podcasts dissected it, novels like Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child's Crooked River spun fictional versions. TV shows from Bones to Rizzoli and Isles borrowed the premise for grisly plot lines. Why does it fascinate us? Experts call it a mix of morbid curiosity and the comfort of distance. Severed feet are gruesome but oddly contained. Not whole bodies, just fragments. The fact that most were ultimately explained as accidents or suicides lets the public flirt with horror without confronting full-blown murder sprees. It's tragedy wrapped in mystery, delivered by the waves. Still, even scientists admit the phenomenon feels uncanny. Finding one sneaker-clad foot is rare, two is strange, but over 24? That feels like something out of a crime thriller. A police officer once called it a 1,000,000-to-1 anomaly, and yet each new discovery reminds us how little control humans have against nature's slow, grinding processes. The ocean is vast, powerful, and mercilessly practical. It doesn't conspire, it just does what physics demands. But when the tide delivers a human foot to your local beach, it's hard not to feel the presence of something larger, darker, and inexplicable. Yet the story refuses to fade because it balances on the edge of science and horror. We understand the decomposition process, the role of buoyant sneakers, the quirks of local currents. And still, when another foot washes ashore, we shiver. Because the sea has secrets. Because tragedies leave fragments behind. Because even in an age of forensic science, some mysteries feel eternal.